Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare. Hey Prabhupada, Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Prabhupada. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare. Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada, Jai Jai. Jai Ho Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Prabhupada ki jai. Namaho Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Charine. Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone. They say small is beautiful. So, we're going to have a beautiful time. On behalf of the GBC committee called Srila Prabhupada's Position, welcome to our Founder-Acharya. Everyone please sit up front as far as possible. Oh, Maharaj, good. Jai. There you go. We have an intimate group tonight. Well, they're going to miss half the lesson. Okay, so again, on behalf of the GBC's committee called Srila Prabhupada's Position, welcome to the Founder-Acharya seminar. As you can see, the title is Srila Prabhupada, Our Founder-Acharya. We have so much diversity in ISKCON, we need more unity. And guess who supplies that unity? The Founder-Acharya. We all have different diksha and siksha gurus, but we all have the same foundational guru, the Founder-Acharya. Subtitle, Celebrating Srila Prabhupada's Pre-eminent, that means most prominent, pre-eminent position in ISKCON, as well as every follower's foundational relationship with him. We're at 2014 now, and 3 years will be at 2017. And 2017 will mark the millennial of the Ramanuja Sampradaya. Ramanuja lived from 1017 to 1137, 120 years. How have they been going for 1,000 years? Because they keep the Founder-Acharya front and center in all their relationships. How many have been to Sri Rangam? Okay, I haven't. But when you go to Sri Rangam, which is the seat of the Ramanuja Sampradaya, or if you go to Udupi, who's been to Udupi? I've been there. So if you ask them who they are, they will tell you that they are Madhvas, or they are Ramanujis. And my beloved diksha guru is so-and-so, and my beloved siksha gurus are so-and-so. And why are they beloved? Because those gurus enrich, enhance, and deepen their foundational relationship, their core relationship with their Founder-Acharya. That's how they go on. We need to take a hint from what stood the test of time, and also from Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. What I'm here to do, hopefully, is to inspire you all to take the full seminar. This is only going to be one lesson of a 10-lesson seminar. Prabhus, you're not allowed to sit in the back. You are cordially invited to come as close as you can, because people who come after you will have to go to the back. Inconspicuously. Okay, where was I? What was I saying? I forget. Yes. So tonight's lesson is what I call the signature lesson of the seminar. It's that lesson which perhaps best represents the whole seminar. Just like Prabhupada would say, you can tell what a whole pot of rice is by examining one grain. So this lesson hopefully will inspire you to say, hey, Prabhuji, we really want the whole thing. We want the whole journey. Because it is a journey from Sambandha, where we deepen our awareness, our knowledge of our relationship with Srila Prabhupada. The first lesson of that section is called The Spiritual Masters. The Founder-Acharya principle, what's that all? Where did it come from? How Prabhupada exemplified that principle like no one ever has. That's Sambandha. Tonight we're going to do this lesson. Okay. And then once we deepen our awareness of what it means that Prabhupada is our Founder-Acharya, how he does provide our core identity, our core relationship, then we're inspired to commit more to his mission. Execution, abhideya, acting in the relationship. And we look at his mission's roots. It's kind of a history lesson. How Prabhupada manifested his strategic plan that he was cooking up in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. And then we look at the great unfulfilled phase of the movement, his Varnashram challenge. And then we look at how we can find our own individual mission in the mission, and I'm considering renaming this lesson, Finding Our Mentors in His Mission, because it's really all about connecting with people who can help us make our best contribution to Prabhupada's ISKCON branch of the Chaitanya tree. And now once we commit to the mission more, then we're qualified to talk about deepening our love for Srila Prabhupada, prayojana. Sambandha, knowledge, abhideya, process, prayojana, result. To love is to cooperate. Arguably, Prabhupada's farewell request to us all, and not only farewell request, he was saying this all along. And then we look at make-believe, imaginary, illusory Prabhupads. Madhajis, please, up front, over here. No sitting in the back. There you go. And then, once we dispel those sentimental and impersonal misconceptions about Prabhupada, over here, Madhajis, right here, those misconceptions about Srila Prabhupada, then we can authentically enter into our individual relationship deeper with Srila Prabhupada. That's the overview, and let's go right to the lesson we're going to do tonight. Any questions about how the seminar goes? Okay. All right. Oops. Oh, here we go. There we go. So this is lesson 3 of the seminar. It's the climactic lesson of Sambandha. And I chose this slide. Does anyone know where Prabhupada is in the picture? Good guess. It is it's kind of a rural community. Yes. Say it loud. Bhaktivedanta Manor. It's the very year that Srila Prabhupada installed the deities at Bhaktivedanta Manor, who are named Radha, Gokulananda. They just passed their 40th anniversary last year. So there were many, many famous pictures taken of Prabhupada on the manor's south lawn, capturing him in so many different moods. I chose this shot because Prabhupada appears to be graciously accepting a little toy from perhaps a 4 or 5-year-old girl in 1973. If she's still with us on the planet, that means she's about 45, 6 years old. So I chose this shot because the point is that this little girl, if she's still with us on the earth, or even if she isn't, even if she passed away, she'll get another chance, right? We know from Bhagavad Gita. She has just as much opportunity to have a foundational relationship with our Founder-Acharya, as does Prabhupada's diksha disciple. There's Hemavati Mataji, and that's the point, that Hemavati is Prabhupada's initiated disciple of Srila Prabhupada. This little girl is not his initiated disciple, but she has every opportunity to be his siksha follower, and that's really what it's all about. It's about being a follower. He lives forever by his divine instructions. That's how he lives forever. Not by the divine diksha, which is certainly a divine rite of passage. Not by his divine vapu, which is certainly divine. It's used in Krishna's service. But he lives forever by his divine instructions, and the follower lives with him. So we need to deeply understand that, how all generations of Prabhupada's followers have the same core identity, core relationship as siksha followers of the Founder-Acharya. Okay, here we go. So in this lesson, we'll look at our own Founder-Acharya, Srila Prabhupada, and how he realized and revealed his position as service to his Guru Maharaj, to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and to all generations of his followers. Any questions so far about what I've said? Okay, we're going to have some fun right now. Whoop. So, the key word in the question I'm about to ask you is Puranic. Who knows the Puranic prophecy that Srila Prabhupada fulfilled, beside Chandramauli Swami, who teaches this seminar too? We're a team. We have a whole Founder-Acharya team now. So what Puranic prophecy, Puranic means very old history, right? Did Prabhupada fulfill? Raise your hand if you know. Not many people know this usually, although how many people here were in ISKCON in 1996 besides Maharaj and me? Okay? You were? Okay. Do you remember Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja book that year, what it was like? It was the first oversized Prabhupada Vyasa Puja book. Do you remember who the centennial minister was that year? Gopinath Maharaj. And he wrote a beautiful introduction to the centennial Vyasa Puja book, and it was presenting evidence of Prabhupada's position from prophecies. So, okay, well, I'll set you up here. Okay, it's 5,000 years. I'll keep giving you hints. 5,000 years ago, Krishna was still in Dwarka. He was the prince of Dwarka. And he was getting ready to leave the planet. You know the prophecy? You're shaking your head like you know the prophecy. No, it's not Bhagavatam. It's Purana. Bhagavatam's Purana, but it's another Purana. Do you know the... It's the prophecy in connection with Ganga Devi. You know this? Okay. So Ganga Devi is very worried. Okay, 5,000 years ago, actually all the holy rivers in India personified, the goddesses behind the holy rivers were really worried. They knew that Krishna was ready to leave the planet. And so they approached Ganga, the leader, and said, Ganga, Krishna is going to leave the planet, and all these Kali Yuga people who are going to come are going to dump all their sinful activities in our sacred waters. What to do? We don't want to become, as we say these days, toxic waste dumps. Right? So Ganga was, good point. So she went to Dwarka, and it says in the Brahma Vaivarta Purana, quote, O Lord, we can see that your pastimes are about to end, and people are becoming more and more materialistic. You have been very merciful to us. After you leave, however, all the sinful people of Kali Yuga will bathe in our waters, and we will become overwhelmed with sinful reactions. Smiling, the Lord replied, be patient. Prabhuji, please read that.
Appear in this world and spread the chanting of my holy name everywhere.
Yes, and then the Lord said, not only in Bharatvarsha, but also all over the world, people will chant, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And Krishna continued, he's speaking to Ganga. By this chanting, the whole world will become Eka Varna, one designation, namely Hari Bhaktas, devotees of Lord Hare. And because the devotees of Lord Hare are so pure, anyone who contacts them will become purified from sinful reactions. And now Krishna, he turns Ganga's concern right back on her, because she said, oh, they're going to come and dump their sinful activities in our waters. So listen to what Krishna says. These pure devotees will visit Bharatvarsha and purify you of sinful reactions by bathing in your sacred waters. All these pure devotees that are going to be inspired by the mantra Upasaka. Now, here's the most amazing line of the prophecy. It's the only line of the prophecy that Prabhupada told us. And I want you to tell me after you hear the line why it's the only line he told us. Okay? You ready? Here's the line. This period of worldwide chanting of Hare Krishna will continue for 10,000 years. Now, Prabhupada told us that. Why didn't he tell us what came before? Besides Maharaj. No, besides Maharaj. Let them, you gotta draw him in here. Why did Prabhupada, come on ladies, that's not allowed. No hanging back. Good. Thank you very much. We got about equal, well, still the men are outnumbering the ladies. Okay, now think about it. What was that last line again? What did Krishna say in the prophecy? What did he say? So why do you suppose Prabhupada did not tell us the background to that line? What came before, where Krishna predicted that he would send his mantra Upasaka to spread it all over the world. Can you think why he wouldn't say that? Before Maharaj blurts it out? Come on, you teach the seminar. Simply blow. Okay, Maharaj, tell us.
After you said that, now I realize I don't know.
You don't know?
It's natural humility because it was about him.
Yes, if Prabhupada had told us the background, it would have called attention to him.
Mm-hmm.
But our Founder-Acharya is utterly transparent to Krishna. While all the other gurus, swamis, and yogis were coming to the West and calling attention to themselves for fame and fortune, the pure devotee of the Lord was calling everyone's attention to Krishna. So he didn't tell us. Otherwise, we would have said, oh, you're the mantra Upasaka. No, he didn't do that. That's the caliber of our Founder-Acharya. So that's why to this day, if you go around the world, even if people have heard of Hare Krishna, chances are they haven't heard of Bhaktivedanta Swami. Maybe they have in India, but outside India, he's not as well known as Hare Krishna. Where it's just the other way with the other, gurus, swamis, and yogis. People kind of remember those guys, but they don't remember what they were about. Okay, so that was the Puranic prophecy that who fulfilled? Prabhupada. He was the mantra Upasaka. He's the one that spread it all over the world 14 times in 12 years. He did it. Okay, now the next one is a Gaudiya prophecy. So more people know this. So who knows the Gaudiya? This is in writing now. Think 500 years ago. Okay, we have a taker. Prabhuji. No, 500 years ago. It is Gaudiya, but that's more recent. You get to do the next one. So think 500 years ago. Gaudiya in writing. Who made a prophecy that Prabhupada fulfilled? Mataji. Well, that's related. When Mahaprabhu said, what did he say? Say it, wait a minute. You got to get the mic. Okay, we need a runner here. How about the TV man? The TV man, you're central, so you pass the mic around.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu professed that after some years, many years later on, a soldier would come to take my movement ahead.
Okay, good. That's good enough. It was recorded in the Chaitanya Mangala by Srila Lochandas Thakur. And the situation is just as Ganga was really worried about Kali Yuga people dumping their sinful activities in her sacred waters, in all the sacred waters. So Narada Muni, he also is such a compassionate yogi. He's such a spaceman, he can go anywhere, right? He can go anywhere in the spiritual world, the material world. So Lochandas Thakur said that Narada Muni went to Golok, Navadvip, where Lord Chaitanya is eternally performing his Sankirtan pastimes. And he also said, Lord, what do we do? Kali Yuga is going to come in full force. How do we help these people? And so, Lord Chaitanya said, with the powerful chopper of Nam Sankirtan, I will cut the hard knots of demoniac desires from the hearts of everyone. Yadi papi chadid dharma dure deshe yoy mora sena pati bhakta yai beta toy. So Mataji, please read that. Did you turn it off? If you keep it on, will the battery run out? Okay. This is going to baffle
Even
you.
if the sinners reject religion or flee to foreign countries, I will send Mora Senapati Bhakta, my military field commander, to go ahead and deliver them.
Yes. So who was that person who created faith in the faithless? Who turned sinners into saints? And, Prabhupada himself, when he was walking among us, he would use military images a lot. He would refer to the books we were distributing as bombs, which were raining and dropping into the laps of the conditioned souls. And he referred to the book distributors as soldiers. And in the Bhagavad Gita, he says we should practice Krishna consciousness as if in military discipline. As if. In military, there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of hate, but in bhakti, there should be love and trust. As if. But we should be disciplined. Okay, now we're going to let Prabhuji give a more recent prophecy that was given in the last 130 years by a previous acharya of ours who was the pioneer of the whole Hare Krishna movement, saw it all, envisioned it all from the GBC all the way down to Namhat. It's Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur who said, where's the mic? There you go.
A personality will soon appear in order to preach the teachings of Sri Chaitanya and move unrestrictedly over the whole world with his message.
Yes. And so the Thakur not only said that, but he published it in his Sajjana Toshini. And Prabhupada himself, when he was describing the kind of historical evolution of Krishna consciousness, he took it as significant that the very year that Bhaktivinoda Thakur sent his book abroad, Sri Chaitanya, His Life and Precepts, he said, fortunately, that was the year of my birth. And then he said, who knew I would come to your country, to us Americans? Who knew, first he said, who knew I would meet my Guru Maharaj? Who knew I would come to your country? Who knew you would come to me? These are all the arrangements of Krishna. So what we're going to do now is take a look at some of those arrangements that Lord Chaitanya made. How did Lord Chaitanya set the world stage for Srila Prabhupada's advent? See, Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as we know from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. And that means he's also Father Time. Time I am, Krishna says in the Gita. So, over the course of many centuries, Lord Chaitanya, he actually created conditions which allowed eventually his Senapati Bhakta to enter the world stage and be victorious. So raise your hand if you know the first thing that Lord Chaitanya did. I'll give you a big hint. He's doing it right there. Yeah. He ignited a bhakti renaissance, a bhakti revolution, a revival, by introducing the Yuga Dharma. That's the public reason he came. The private reason, of course, is he wanted to taste Radha's love for Krishna, Mahabhav. Okay, so Prabhuji, you read this. At the mic. You're going to read a bunch of things.
In the 16th century, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtana movement ignited a bhakti renaissance in India.
Renaissance, a rebirth of bhakti in India. Now, by Mahaprabhu's mysterious will, the very revolution, the very renaissance he created, he allowed it to be eclipsed, to be overshadowed for hundreds of years. Within 100 years after he disappeared, the whole thing was eclipsed by so many Upasampradayas, imitation, pseudo-Vaishnav sects. He allowed that to happen. But while that happened in India, you know what was going on in the West? In India, there was a bhakti renaissance, where Lord Chaitanya was inviting people all over Bharatvarsha to explore their inner space. Anarpita charing chirahat kurunaya vatirna kalo. This is CC Adi Lila 1-4. Samarpayatung anato jvalarasahang. You know this? Svabhakti shriyam hari purata sundara jutika dambasandi petaha sada hridaya kandare spuratu vakshachi nandana. In the fourth verse of the Adi Lila, Kaviraj Goswami says, "May that Supreme Lord, who was known as the son of Srimati Shachi Devi, be transcendentally situated in the innermost chambers of your heart." He's inviting us all to explore inner space. Resplendent with the radiance of molten gold, he has appeared in the age of Kali by his causeless mercy to bestow what no incarnation ever offered before, the most sublime and radiant mellow of devotional service, the mellow of conjugal love. Now, while that was going on in India, there was a reflection of that renaissance going on in the West. People began to throw off the shackles of a corrupt church in Rome, explore the natural world. They were actually getting deeper into Krishna's illusory energy, but Krishna allowed that because the fruit of that was technology. And so you'll see as we progress through this how that was perfect for Prabhupada to spread it all over the world. So the Bhakti Renaissance was eclipsed for about 250 years by so many pseudo-Vaishnav sects. And finally, Prabhuji, you read this one.
In the 19th century, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur revived Mahaprabhu's pure teachings and envisioned a worldwide movement of Krishna consciousness.
Our Founder-Acharya called Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur the pioneer of the Krishna consciousness movement. He envisioned, just imagine this, the Thakur envisioned everything from a governing body commission that would have to supervise the global spreading of Krishna consciousness, all the way down to Namhat, local Bhakti Vriksha groups. Super visionary. He saw us all coming to Mayapur to chant Jai Sachinandan Gaur Hari. He saw the Adbhuta Mandir that's currently rising in Mayapur. What a visionary. But he also knew he didn't have time to manifest this. So he prayed for a ray of Vishnu who would help him. Prabhuji, you read that.
In the early 20th century, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's Gaudiya mission spread Krishna consciousness throughout India and sent the first Vaishnava preachers to Europe.
Yeah, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta knew his father's vision, knew that his father wanted to start making good on Mahaprabhu's prophecy, Prithivite achayata nagaradigram sarvatra prachar haibe moranam Chaitanya Bhagavat. In as many towns and villages as there are on the surface of the earth, my holy name will be preached. Well, the Prabhujis have really outdone the Maharajis tonight, so, okay, is that all right? You can, you can just steal their chairs. So, Mahaprabhu said that, according to the Chaitanya Bhagavat 500 years ago, but it wasn't happening. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, he was determined to take it out, not only revive it all over Bharatvarsha, but take it outside of India and start this prophecy coming into fruition. Unfortunately, as we know, his particular institution fragmented, but at least he had one disciple who really, utterly, absolutely surrendered to the mission. And Prabhuji, I want you to read the next stage setting. Well, first of all, before I flash it, let me say that when our Founder-Acharya did come in the 1960s, came out of India to spread Krishna consciousness, Lord Chaitanya made some very fine stage settings. He really fine-tuned the world stage. And he did it in 3 ways. Well, probably more, but he did it religiously, politically, and culturally. So read this.
In the 1960s, when our Srila Prabhupada sailed to the West, the Vatican relaxed its attitude toward other religious teachings. The US relaxed its Asian immigration laws, and the American counterculture began to look to the East for truth.
So are there any, I guess there aren't, but sometimes when I'm in the West I say, are there any recovering Roman Catholics in the house? And they say, yes. I say, okay, you must know your church history. What happened in the Roman Catholic Church in 1961? And what happened was that they had a big GBC meeting. They had a big, they called it Vatican II, the Second Ecumenical Council, a very avuncular kind of Santa Claus-like pope named Pope John the 23rd. Called the meeting, just like Pope Francis today is trying to make the Catholic Church more relevant to today's world, so also Pope John. He was trying to update the church, and he actually died during the meeting. The meeting went from 1961 to 1965. Fortunately, his successor continued the meeting. And the most significant resolution for our purposes that came out of that meeting was that for the first time in its history, the Roman Catholic Church dropped its claim to exclusivity. It didn't say that you had to be a Roman Catholic to get to heaven. For the first time, thank you very much. It wasn't necessarily true that if you weren't a Roman Catholic that you were going to hell. Thank you very much. So this gave very subtle but very powerful psychological permission for tens of millions of Roman Catholics all over the world to look at other teachings, to appreciate other revelations, other faith traditions, how God could manifest himself and bestow his grace in other ways. Now, one fine day in 1966 summer, one of those recovering Roman Catholics was walking down the street in New York City's Lower East Side, 22nd Avenue, as a matter of fact, and he walked by 26 2nd Avenue. And he had been reading the Buddhist teachings. And out of the corner of his eye, someone caught his eye in 26 2nd Avenue because he looked like the Buddha to him. He was sitting on a dais, and he had a shaved head, and he had robes, and he had big earlobes. He didn't have time to go in then. He was on his lunch hour, but he went back the next day because it said Bhagavad Gita class, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, in the storefront window. And of course, it was the person who would become our Srila Prabhupada giving Bhagavad Gita class. And then after class, this young man, raised a Roman Catholic, said, Swamiji, and it was a very Buddhist question he asked. He said, how can I understand that I'm just nothing? And Swamiji said, "You are not nothing. You are something, but you are not this body." And that was the beginning of a relationship. That boy, that young man, Stephen Guarino, became Satsvarup Brahmachari. 6 years later, he became Satsvarup Maharaj. 6 years after that, in 78, after Prabhupada left, he was asked by the GBC to write Prabhupada's authorized biography. These are all the arrangements of Krishna. Okay, so that was very significant religious opening. Politically, in America, during World War II, Japan was an adversary of ours in World War II. So for the 20 years after World War II ended in 45, between 45 and 65, we had absurdly restrictive Asian immigration laws. You didn't see many Asians unless they had come over much earlier. You didn't see Indians. You know, the great Indian diaspora now is all over the world, right? Indians are very successful, NRIs, non-resident Indians, are very successful people all over the world. But there were none. But in 65, the USA, the United States Immigration and Naturalization Service, relaxed its Asian immigration laws mysteriously, just as Prabhupada was coming over. And when Prabhupada came, he was actually able to extend his visa with some difficulty and eventually become a resident, get what we call a green card, and come and go as he pleased. So that was Lord Chaitanya's arrangement. But here's the most significant arrangement. Prabhupada had an audience when he came. He didn't have an audience in India. Nobody cared about what he was saying. After, India got independence, what happened? Gandhi felt betrayed by Jinnah and Nehru, and they all wanted to go whole hog industrial Western, right? They didn't want plain living and high thinking. They didn't want Swadeshi. Produce only what you need, use only what you produce. They wanted to become a big industrial power. Just like when I got off the plane last time I landed in Calcutta, I saw the first thing that I saw when I got off the plane in Calcutta was a big banner. Before I even went in the airport, big banner. It said, "Welcome to India. Feel the passion." I didn't come to India to feel the passion. I came to India to get away from that stuff. But, India is great, sure, but why is it great? It's great because of its spiritual heritage. Anyway, so when Prabhupada came, he found a whole generation of young people mad after anything Vedic, yogic, meditation, He was just amazed. This was a very fertile preaching ground. Krishna created this whole, Maharaj and I were part of it, and Radhanath Maharaj. Imagine a whole generation of people rejecting their family, rejecting their school, rejecting their church, rejecting business, career, and just hitting the road to look for the truth. You've all read A Journey Home, right? Okay, well, we were all doing that, but Maharaj had the best story. So read that book, because that was a great book. But that was what we were doing. So this is Lord Chaitanya's arrangement to kickstart the Hare Krishna movement. Yes, please. Okay, so when Prabhupada came, this is what he found. He found a whole generation of people who were starving for something from the East, journey to the East. Now this picture is not when Prabhupada was all alone, when he first came, but that's what I wanted to depict right now, because when Prabhupada did come in 1965, all he had was one contact of an impersonal yogi, Dr. Ramamurti Mishra, who kindly gave him a place to stay. Srila Prabhupada launched the Krishna Consciousness movement alone, with complete humility and enthusiasm, but guess what? When Prabhupada came over on the Jaladuta, becoming the Founder-Acharya of a new branch of the Gaudiya Sampradaya was the furthest thing from his mind. He had no intention of being the Founder-Acharya of anything. But he had every intention, as late as the hour was, of reviving his own Guru Maharaja's mission. I mean, his heart was broken at what happened to his Guru Maharaja's mission. And how many people have the Bhaktivedanta Database? You have? Okay. Well, you can go to the database and you can look under correspondence, and then you go into there and you see 1965, and you look in there and you start reading the letters that Prabhupada is writing to his godbrothers. Prabhupada was doing two things when he came to America. From September 65 to the time he started ISKCON in July 66. He was studying Americans, studying how we lived, and he was writing his godbrothers. And studying Americans. Okay, who knows Prabhupada first stayed when he came? Raise your hand. You must know this. Where did Prabhupada stay when he first came for the first month? Butler, Pennsylvania, with the Agarwals, Sali and Gopal Agarwal. So, if you've seen the movies, or if you've read the Lilamrita, you know some of the memories from the Agarwals about Prabhupada staying there. One of the memories I never heard was when, were you there when Radhanath Maharaj went to Butler with a bunch of people? Okay. Maybe it was you that told me about the water coming through the bathroom door. Did you remember that one? Okay. So an example of how, unaware Prabhupada was of American ways was one fine day, Sally Agarwal sees water coming out from her bathroom, flooding the carpet. And so she knocks on the door, Swamiji, are you all right? Are you all right? And then she opens the door, and there's Prabhupada trying to wash his clothes on the bathroom floor. Like Indian bathrooms where it's all one, right? The shower and the buckets, and there's no bathtub. There's just one big place for cleaning your body and cleaning your clothes, and right? So Prabhupada's trying to do that. Oh, Swamiji, I have to show you the washing machine. Washing machine? And then she showed him the vacuum cleaner. Vacuum cleaner? Prabhupada, sometimes he would just ride around New York City on a bus for hours just observing how Americans lived. That's what he was doing. But the other thing he was doing was he was writing his godbrothers letters and saying, I'm here in America, and there's unlimited preaching potential. For example, Prabhupada talked about the Ramakrishna mission, the Vivekananda thing, the Vedanta Society. And Prabhupada referred to them as having a 10th class philosophy. With their rubbish philosophy, they are flourishing. They have $1 million building here. And because Americans are so naive but so starving for anything Vedic or Vedantic or Eastern, they're just like making followers left and right. Whereas we, Prabhupada said, we Gaudiya Math people, because of what happened to the Gaudiya Math, we become beggars. But Prabhupada said, better late than never. He was writing to his godbrothers, I'm here. I'm here, and here, if you only have time to read one of these letters, read November 8th, 1965, his letter to Bhaktivilas Tirtha Maharaj, who was the Mahant at the Sri Chaitanya Math. And here's the excerpt. Okay, let's let Maharaj read this.
I came here to study the situation, and I find it very nice. And if you are also agreeable to cooperate, it will be all very nice by the will of Srila Prabhupada. If you agree, then take it for granted that I am one of the workers of the Sri Mayapur Chaitanya Math. I have no ambition for becoming the proprietor of any math or mandir, but I want working facilities. Letter to Bhakti Vilas Tirtha Maharaj, 8th November 1965. I have no personal ambitions.
Yeah, I am one of the workers. It's your movement. You can have it. I just need facilities. He didn't want to be the founder of anything. He just wanted to revive Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's mission. But guess what happened? They didn't cooperate. They didn't respond. Why? Because of the gravity of the offense that had been committed and continued to be committed, fundamentally disobeying their Founder-Acharya's order to work collectively, cooperatively, under the supervision of a governing body. They didn't do that. Instead, they fought over in the courts over who owned properties, etc. So from 1965 to from September 65 to July 66, Lord Chaitanya revealed to the person who became our Prabhupada that, you know what, they're not going to help you. You're going to have to go it alone with your Guru Maharaj and me, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yeah, it was heavy. Please read those letters, or at least read that letter. This is a long letter. This is just one excerpt. Let me read you an excerpt from a letter that Prabhupada wrote to one of my godbrothers 6 years after this time. Quote, "When I was alone in your New York, I was thinking, who will listen to me in this horrible, sinful place? All right, I shall stay a little longer. At least I can distribute a few of my books. That is something. But Krishna was all along preparing something I could not see. And he brought you to me, one by one, sincere American boys and girls." In 1972, Americans were dominating the movement then. American boys and girls, to be trained up for doing the work of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now I can see that it is a miracle. Otherwise, your city of New York, one single old man with only a few books to sell for barely getting eatables, how he can survive? What to speak of introducing God consciousness movement for saving the humankind? That is Krishna's miracle. And it's even more of a miracle that it was basically done through our Srila Prabhupada. You know, he was, one memory we have, you may remember from 1965, Prabhupada, as he was studying Americans and he was writing letters, sometimes he would sit on a park bench and he would chant japa, and then by Krishna's miracle, we found one of those people that Prabhupada sat next to. He turned up in Vancouver, Canada, and just out of nowhere, his name was Mr. Rubin. He had been a subway conductor. Now he's a good friend of the temples. And he said, yes, Swami Bhaktivedanta, he was like Jeremiah. He was like a prophet. He was saying to me, I have many temples, many farms, many restaurants, many schools, but just now time is separating us from them. Prabhupada could see it all. Like Bhaktivinoda, Trikalagya. He could see what was coming. Just now time is separating us. Okay, so that first year, 1965 to 66, Lord Chaitanya revealed to Prabhupada. In fact, one godbrother, you know what he wrote Prabhupada back? What you're doing is ludicrous. Ludicrous means ridiculous. And Prabhupada had to write back and say, no, what I'm doing isn't ludicrous. This is what Guru Maharaj wants us all to do. We should cooperate and spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. So, all alone, when Srila Prabhupada incorporated the first chapter of ISKCON in New York City on July 13th, 1966, he signed the papers with his sannyas name only, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. No Prabhupada, no Founder-Acharya, but at least he had gone from obscurity to Swamiji. And he had realized that the Lord was asking him to start a fresh branch of the Gaudiya Sampradaya. Out of the ashes, so to speak, the debacle, the catastrophe, the Holocaust of all the fighting that happened, Prabhupada, he founded a fresh branch called ISKCON. Now, that's 1966. In 1967, Prabhupada, in the early months, founded the second branch. Where was that? San Francisco. And then Prabhupada came back to New York in April, and then in May he was getting ready to give a speech. It was called the Peace Formula, because it was on, there's a day we have in America called Memorial Day, where we honor the people who died in wars defending America, mainly defending the corporations. Anyway, Prabhupada had a stroke. He had a stroke, and it was shocking to the devotees, because Prabhupada appeared to be like Superman. He could chant for hours, he could stay up and write, he could cook better than anybody, sing better than anybody, he could walk faster than he was like Superman. But then he had a stroke. And then he introduced the Nrsimha prayers. From his hospital bed, he told the devotees in 26 2nd Avenue and in 518 Frederick Street, San Francisco, you should hold kirtan all night and sing this song. And he introduced Namaste Narasimhaya. And later on he wrote a letter saying, I was supposed to have died on Tuesday, but because you prayed sincerely to Lord Nrsimhadev, he has kindly stayed and let me do my nonsense. This is the humility of the Founder-Acharya. Now Prabhupada was in the hospital. And he was in a hospital right about 2 blocks from the hospital where I was born. And the doctors were just using him as a guinea pig for their tests. And after a couple of days, he said, they're not helping me. Get me out of here. So Gargamuni and Brahmananda, among his first disciples, cooked up a plan to get Prabhupada out of there before the doctors would let him out. So when the doctors weren't looking, they put Swamiji on a gurney, a wheeling, bed, wheeled bed, and they looked, and then they made a beeline for the elevator, and then one doctor saw him, and he started running down the stairs, but they beat him down the stairs, and then they wheeled Prabhupada out, toward out of the exit. And all these doctors are chasing him, saying, stop, you're going to kill that old man, stop. And Prabhupada's just sitting on the gurney, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Now Prabhupada, it was really a blow to his health. And it was then that he started massages and morning walks. And at first he tried to get better below New York City. There's a place called the New Jersey Shore. He went there. It was cloudy, chilly. It wasn't working. And then the devotees wrote him, we're going to have our first Ratha-yatra in San Francisco, Swamiji. Please come out. And so Prabhupada came out because California is known for its sunshine. But San Francisco was different. Has anybody ever heard of the American writer Mark Twain? So Mark Twain, he was famous for making wise, witty remarks. So he said, the coldest winter I ever spent was a summer in San Francisco. So Prabhupada was still bundled up there too. He was staying in a place called Stinson Beach, El Paradiso, a little Spanish bungalow. And he was so weak, he was so sick, he couldn't go to the Ratha-yatra. But 3 devotees stayed back with him. Mukunda, who became Mukunda Maharaj, Hayagriva, who was Prabhupada's second editor, and Kirtanananda Maharaj, he wasn't Maharaj yet. So the way Mukunda Maharaj told it in the Lilamrita and also in his own book, Miracle on 2nd Avenue, which you may have read, Kirtanananda and Hayagriva forced him to ask Swamiji a question he didn't want to ask, because they were all really worried. Because Prabhupada is openly saying, I've got to go to India to get my health back. And they were worried he wasn't going to come back. Maybe he wouldn't live. So, this is what, let's see, where's the mic? Okay, Prabhuji, you read. Can you read? You can read. Okay, so you read and then I'll...
When you die, what will happen to the movement? I asked. Will you have a successor who will continue your work and look after your spiritual education?
After our spiritual education.
after our spiritual education?
As I heard myself say the words, I realized it had been a mistake to ask this. The Swami sat silently, looking out the window at the sand dunes and the mountains. It was high tide, and I could hear the waves pounding the beach. Gulls shrieked. The Swami muttered something quietly. I couldn't hear what you said, Swami, I said carefully. Can you repeat it? Prabhuji.
Actually, it is an insult to the spiritual master, he said.
He said a little louder.
He said.
Yeah. He turned away from the window and looked at me pensively, it means thoughtfully, as if he was hurt by my question. I'm sorry, Swami, I said. I felt like shrinking into the carpet. He closed his eyes. Outside, a dog barked. A shallow stream of tears appeared below each of his eyes and flowed over his cheeks. He slowly wiped them away. My spiritual master, he said, and his voice choked to gravel. I was stunned. What had I done?
My spiritual master, he said. He was no ordinary spiritual master. He paused again and then whispered falteringly. Falteringly. He saved me.
Now, isn't that rather unusual? No ordinary spiritual master. It almost sounds like a contradiction, right? How can a spiritual master be ordinary? You're going to hear it again because Hayagriva, when he wrote his book, The Hare Krishna Explosion, described the same incident from another perspective. That evening, Prabhupada was reflecting on this exchange where he was so, shocked by the question even. When you die, will somebody else come and teach us? So here's how Hayagriva tells the whole thing. Quote, some of the devotees, worried that Swamiji has decided to go to India to leave his body, ask him whether during his absence one of his godbrothers should come to America to assume ISKCON leadership. The minute this question is presented to him, we sense that it is offensive. Swamiji becomes very grave, closing his eyes, and for a moment he seems to consider it. Then suddenly we see tears falling down his cheeks. My Guru Maharaj, he was no ordinary spiritual master. There it is again. He says, wiping away the tears, he saved me. Okay.
Later, Swamiji tells us what we should have always known. There is no one to replace him. The very idea is insulting. If someone comes and tells you something different, he says, you will be confused.
You see what Prabhupada realizes by now? That really Lord Chaitanya is empowering him and him alone to lead these new international Vaishnavas. His godbrothers wouldn't cooperate with him. Even his godbrothers, when they went abroad in the 1930s, they were rather discouraged by what they encountered. For example, Prabhupada told how one of his godbrothers was approached by one Marquis of Zetland. Prabhupada was pronouncing Shetland like Zetland. Off the coast of Scotland, there are these Shetland Islands. So one lord said, Swamiji, can you make me a Brahmin? So the Gaudiya Math sannyasi said, yeah, sure. Just follow these 4 rules. No intoxication, no illicit sex, no meat eating, no gambling. Impossible. So when those Gaudiya Math Swamis were called back to India by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, they were rather discouraged. They thought, how is it that Krishna Consciousness is going to spread all over the world? How is it that Mahaprabhu's prediction is going to happen? Maybe it's a metaphor. How could it literally be true? These people are animals. Now contrast the way that exchange went with how Prabhupada introduced the 4 rules. You know how Prabhupada introduced the 4 rules at 26 Second Avenue? Well, he had initiations, but the stress was more on the chanting. Prabhupada was following Rupa Goswami. Prabhupada, as you may know, before he came to America, was living at Radha Damodar Temple in Sevakunj, Vrindavan, and praying, crying, prostrate at the samadhi of Rupa Goswami, please empower me. Please help me to fulfill Guru Maharaj's order. that I go west. I have no idea how to do this. So Rupa Goswami, his highest principle was yena tena prakarena mana Krishna nishevayet sarve vidi nishedhasyor etayor eva kinkaraha. Somehow or other, fix people's minds, or fix your mind on Krishna. All the rules and regulations of Shastra are maidservants of this highest principle. So when Prabhupada initiated people, first he wanted them to chant 64 rounds, then it was 32, then 16. Okay, no less than 16. And then one fine day, after a few initiations had passed, there was, there were 2 in September, one in Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja Day, one on Radhastami. Later in September, then there was Govardhan Puja. And then finally, we know the date because on November 25th, there was a famous notice posted. But one of the devotees went up to Swamiji and said, "Hey, Swamiji, are there any rules to this club?" I mean, they didn't have a clue. Prabhupada would be thinking of the whole world, and they were thinking it would never go outside 26 2nd Avenue. Are there any rules to this club? So what did Swamiji reply? Very good boy, very good boy. Like I thought you'd never ask, right? Prabhupada knew the rules had to come from us. When we were ready, we would ask, and then he would give it. And then the next day was posted, you've probably seen it, and if you go to Mayapur, it's right in back of Prabhupada's Vyasasana on the other side of the wall where the Mala Matajis, they make the garlands, are all these pictures of Prabhupada's preaching Leela. So you see this notice. It's dated November 25th, 1966, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. All initiated devotees must, and it reads like a mini Hari Bhakti Vilas. Must not take any intoxicants, including coffee, tea, cigarettes, must not associate intimately with non-devotees, no unnecessary sporting, no illicit connection with the opposite sex, That's when Prabhupada posted the notice. Prabhupada knew how to do it. And now we're actually going to go to another way Prabhupada knew how to do it. But you see, the point is, only he could lead them. My spiritual master, he was no ordinary spiritual master. He saved me. Doesn't that sound unusual? Ordinary spiritual master. There are spiritual masters and there are spiritual masters. Prabhupada is getting the message from Krishna that he is the one empowered to take Krishna consciousness around the world, and that no one really is, by the depth of his surrender, unprecedented surrender, absolute, utter, total surrender to the order of his Guru Maharaj, the 6 Goswamis, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's being empowered to do what no one ever did before. And if anybody else comes and tries to do it, you will be confused. And believe me, after Prabhupada left, we were confused. Because they did. They went to, people to ask things that they shouldn't have asked. Anyway, the next year, we're going to see how Swamiji became Prabhupada. And again, Prabhupada knew that had to come from us. The month is May, 1968. And Prabhupada decides it's time for Brahmin initiations in Boston. Interestingly, because the phrase Boston Brahmin was already current in America for 100 years. Since the 1800s, the American transcendentalists like Henry David Thoreau, Ralph Waldo Emerson, they were reading the Gita. So there was this understanding of Brahmins, what Brahmins are. So in Boston, in May 68, Prabhupada said, so the time has come to have Brahmins. And so Pradyumna Prabhu, Prabhupada's Sanskrit editor, says, oh, we're going to have Boston Brahmins. And Prabhupada said, oh yes, Boston Brahmins. So Prabhupada appeared to know that phrase because he was educated by Scottish fathers, Prabhupada said. So in May 68, he holds the first Brahmin initiation in Boston. 2 ladies are there. They're discouraged that they were not given initiation. And they get mad. And they pout. And they fuss. And they fume. And Prabhupada sees that they're discouraged, these young, strong-minded American ladies. And so he makes an adjustment. He gives them Brahmin initiation too. Usually in Vedic culture from India, the wife shares the credit of the husband. But not like that in America. So Prabhupada makes an adjustment, gives them Brahman initiation, and then one of the ladies, my god sister Govinda Mataji, whom you know, she visited here, told Prabhupada pastimes. I've heard the tapes. So Govinda Dasi, she was here, yeah? Okay. So I don't know if she told you this one, but she was a key player in Swamiji becoming Prabhupada. And here's how it went. So, Govinda Dasi, she was married to a person named Gaur Sundar. And they were Prabhupada's servant and secretary. They personally served him. And so one day Govinda went to Prabhupada, or Swamiji, and said, Swamiji, Gaur Sundar, my husband, he's been studying Sanskrit and he's learning these things, and he's learned that Ji is a term of endearment, and he wants to call me Govinda Ji. What do you think? So here's how Govinda tells it on following Srila Prabhupada DVD series. Gaur Sundar went to Prabhupada. So Gaur Sundar decided he wanted to call me Govindaji, and so he asked Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said, no, actually, Ji is a third-class form of address. It's better not to call her Govindaji. So I spoke up. Now you got to know that this is going to sound strange. The way Govinda is going to be talking now to Prabhupada, but you have to understand that Prabhupada allowed a very grandfatherly relationship between himself and Govinda. He allowed her to be very familiar with him. Somehow he knew that she needed that to keep going in Krishna consciousness. So Govinda says, so I spoke up. I was sitting right in front of him, and I said, well, if it's a third-class form of address, why are we calling you Ji? I mean, can you imagine talking to Prabhupada like this? But the granddaughter is challenging the grandfather here. Why are we calling you Swamiji? And he said, oh, it's not very important. I said, oh, no, it's very important. If it's a third-class form of address, then we don't want to call you that. And now we got to have a lady read the rest here. Mataji, you want to read?
We want to call you the most first-class form of address. So tell us what would be a good name for us to call you by. And he was very humble, very reluctant, but I pressed him. We have got to change this. And he said, you can call me Gurudev or Guru Maharaj or Prabhupada. So I said, well, that's 3. We need 1. So which one is the best? And he answered, Srila Prabhupada is nice. That is the best. So I said, from today you will be called Srila Prabhupada.
Govinda Mataji ki. And then she said, so I told all the devotees. Some of the devotees didn't like it because it's kind of a tongue twister. Prabhupada. And Swamiji kind of flows more easily. But we gradually started calling him Srila Prabhupada from that time. Now look at what happened. First she says, first Prabhupada's reluctant. First he says, oh, we don't want it, it's not very important. And then he's very reluctant. But then she presses him. And when she presses him, Prabhupada's, he's seeing how Lord Chaitanya is working here, because by now, he's already founded the ISKCON branch, right? And he's already told them that only he could lead them, that nobody else is fit to lead you. So he knows already that at some point he's going to have to announce his position. And so he's not Founder-Acharya yet, but look what he's doing. You can call me Gurudev, Guru Maharaj, or Prabhupada. Now he gave her a choice of 3. And then she said, well, that's 3, we need 1. Right? And then he answers this, Srila Prabhupada is nice, that is the best. You see which one, see how he let Govinda lead? But then he gave her the one that actually was befitting his position. It wasn't simply Gurudev or Guru Maharaj, as glorious as that is. That's a regular guru, or as Prabhupada had said, an ordinary. He even said ordinary. That's a regular guru. But he said, Srila Prabhupada, which is a master of masters, a master at whose feet all masters sit. Very interesting how Prabhupada let it come from us, again, the title of Srila Prabhupada. Okay, that was 1968. Now we fast forward 2 years and 2 months to July 70. The month I joined Prabhupada's movement in Boston was the very month Prabhupada formed the GBC and formed the BBT. And here is the legal document. Okay, Srila Prabhupada formally identifies his position. This is another one of those famous Bhaktivedanta Manor shots. And Prabhupada liked this picture so much, he said we could use it as a Founder-Acharya image photo. So on July 28, 1970, when Srila Prabhupada legally established a governing body commission to manage ISKCON, he formally identified his relationship with his mission. So here's what it says in the document. You can read it on the Vedabase, Direction of Management. Quote, International Society for Krishna Consciousness Incorporated, Founder-Acharya, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Now, that's July 70. Now, as wonderful as it was, Prabhus, to be in the Hare Krishna movement when our Founder-Acharya was walking among us, it was a wild ride. It was a wild scene. Prabhupada was the only adult in the movement. Believe me. So one way it was wild was that, for example, Prabhupada's position was very often minimized. For example, he'd receive letters from temple presidents, and it was written on their own stationery. It wasn't even there was no temple stationery, and Prabhupada had to write them back. You can read these letters. And Prabhupada had to say, by the way, you should write your letter on temple stationery, and on the stationery it should say, International Society for Krishna Consciousness, Founder-Acharya, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, by the way. And then before the BBT really got going, there was already something in place called ISKCON Press. I know because I joined in Boston, and that's where the press was, and I lived in the basement when I first joined, where they were binding the books. You know how they bound the books? This devoted godbrother of mine, Petit Pavana, his name was Petit Udaranand, he would stack the books, the new books high, and then glue them, and then they were so that by the force of gravity there was glue binding the pages, right? So when they gave Prabhupada one of these new books, and it was the second canto, it was coming out in chapters, in paperback chapters. Remember that? And so Prabhupada was given a new chapter by Brahmananda Swami, who was the head of ISKCON, was called ISKCON Press. And Prabhupada took it in his hands, and right on the cover, the book said, I think it was The Cause of All Causes was the chapter. And then to identify the author, it said A.C. Bhaktivedanta. Not even Swami, not Prabhupada, no Founder-Acharya. Prabhupada opens it up, and the binding cracks, and the pages fall apart in his hands. Very symbolic of the cracked, adhikar, or sadachar of the devotees and the faith. Another example, one person joined the movement, became a sannyasi, and then left saying he was Prabhupada. He was Jagat Guru. And one temple president, one fine day, sold the temple and took the money and ran, because it wasn't in ISKCON's name, it was in his name. So after a few incidents of this, Prabhupada in 1974, Srila Prabhupada, in July, it was 4 Julys later, instigated and approved a GBC amendment to his earlier management document, reasserting his supreme position in ISKCON. To protect ISKCON, Prabhupada did this. He gave the GBC the components of a resolution, and then they cooked it up, they passed it, and then he signed off on it. And here, this is the strongest statement I've seen in writing about Prabhupada's position vis-a-vis his own institution. Let's have Prabhuji. You want to read this? Where's the... Okay. This is... Yeah, go ahead. Whoop.
It is declared that His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada is the Founder-Acharya of ISKCON, International Society for Krishna Consciousness. He is the supreme authority in all matters of the society. His position cannot be occupied by anyone else, and his name and title must appear on all documents, letterheads, publications and buildings of the society.
And today we might add websites. Just for fun, when I was traveling with the seminar, I was visiting one very prominent temple in our movement, and just for fun I decided to see how they were presenting Prabhupada on their website. So I went to their homepage, couldn't find him. He wasn't there. You know where I finally found Prabhupada? I clicked on a tab that said History. History. And there in the History tab was a little picture of Prabhupada and a little blurb saying that he was the founder of ISKCON. I was aghast. I was mortified. This was a couple of years ago. I won't mention the temple's name to protect the temple. Anyway, I went to one of the temple managers. I said, Prabhuji, if we think Prabhupada is history, guess what? We are history. We are not long for this world. To the temple's credit, when I went back a year later, it at least had Prabhupada on the home page. Anyway, now why did Prabhupada do this? It's a very strong statement here. Look at this. He's the supreme authority in all matters of the society. His position cannot be occupied by anyone else, and he wants his name on all documents. Why is Prabhupada doing this? Out of vanity? Out of ego? Why is he doing it? To protect ISKCON. And as evidence of that, we're going to look now at what Prabhupada's real mood was that summer of '74. Even while he was having the GBC publicly ratify this amendment, we're going to look at something that he was writing in a purport, because that summer he was translating Sri Chaitanya Chaitamrita. That same year, 1974, even as Srila Prabhupada was reasserting his position as ISKCON's Founder-Acharya, while he was translating the Sri Chaitanya Chaitamrita, he also reasserted his disciplic obedience and service to his own spiritual master in the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Prabhupada, in the next slide, you will see he's announcing that he and all of us are Saraswats. So let's have a lady read this. Young lady, would you like to read the next slide? Let's get her the mic. Go ahead.
As members of the Krishna Consciousness movement, we belong to the family or disciplic succession of Saraswati Goswami, and thus we are known as Sarasvatas. Obeisances are therefore offered to the spiritual master as Sarasvat Deva or a member of the Sarasvat family. Namaste Saraswati Deve, whose mission is to broadcast the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Gauravani Pracharine, and to fight with impersonalists and voidists, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine.
Now, just because Prabhupada founded a fresh branch of the Chaitanya tree didn't mean that he started a new sampradaya. And he's reminding all of us that he's simply carrying on the tradition, the mission of Lord Chaitanya as coming from his Guru Maharaj, and we are simply, carrying out their order. This is Prabhupada's mood. We should never think that anything Prabhupada did was out of vanity or ego. He was doing it to protect ISKCON. Okay, now, to end the lesson, we're going to hear some very interesting statements that Prabhupada made in Prabhupada's one and only visit to the continent of South America. He went to, Venezuela. At the top of South America, there's a country called Venezuela. The capital is Caracas. And in February 75, while lecturing on the very first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, Janmadhyasya Yatonvayat, Prabhupada made a very interesting analogy. First, let's hear Prabhupada. See, there's a little audio icon. We're going to hear Prabhupada's own voice. We're going to first hear him talking about that verse. Uh-oh. How come it worked during the rehearsal?
He said, Jato annayat itaratascha arthesu vigyo sara.
Let's take it from the top. Let's do that again.
So, here it is said that origin is life, because here it is said, Jato annayat itaratascha arthesu vigyo sara.
And of course that means he is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations and he is independent. Now in the next slide, Prabhupada's going to draw an analogy. Just as Krishna is the creator and controller of the creation, so he, Srila Prabhupada, as Founder-Acharya, is analogous. So here it is.
Just like if I am taken as the origin of this Krishna Consciousness movement, that means I know everything directly and indirectly of all this movement. If I do not know directly and indirectly everything of this movement, then I cannot be called the Founder-Acharya. And as soon as the origin becomes a knower, he is life.
And as soon as the origin becomes a knower, he is life. In other words, just as the creation didn't pop out of a dead stone or a chunk or a big bang, it started from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just as Krishna is the origin and life of the creation, so Srila Prabhupada, he's the origin and the life and soul of all generations of his followers in his mission. So therefore we end like this. Let's see. Who would like to read? Prabhuji.
As ISKCON's Founder-Acharya, Srila Prabhupada is the life and soul of all generations of his followers. Moreover, whoever enriches our foundational identity as Prabhupada Nogas is also glorious, deepening the cooperation we'll need to take Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya's mission of Krishna Consciousness to every town and village on earth.
Yes, please don't misunderstand. Just because we're focusing on Prabhupada's foundational position in ISKCON doesn't mean we're minimizing anyone else. When I taught this seminar in Mayapur 2013, I had Maharaj was in the audience, and then there was another Maharaj in the audience who also was initiating, and he said, so that means we should minimize the position of the Diksha Guru. And I said, no, Maharaj, no. We need it all. We need the Founder-Acharya, we need Diksha Gurus, we need Siksha Gurus, we need it all. And now Maharaj has a comment about that.
Refreshing your memory about that discussion with that devotee in Chicago. After I gave the seminar, he was very strong on that point. Remember?
What did he say?
You had that letter exchange with him.
Oh, yeah.
I forgot his name, but he was sure that we were minimizing the President
Yeah,
Acharya.
but that's interesting. Why would someone think that by focusing on the Founder-Acharya, we're minimizing Siksha and Diksha Gurus? Why? Because in ISKCON there has been an imbalance. There has been a very narrow focus simply on the initiator. The initiator and the instructors play crucial roles. In fact, in a very human manifest sense, they will be the most important people in our lives. Why? But why? Because they're enriching, enhancing, and deepening what should already be our foundational core relationship with the Founder-Acharya. See, the guru-disciple culture, there has been we're still recovering from the dark night of our soul, when there was a lot of imitation of the Founder-Acharya going on in the 1980s, maybe before your time. We're still recovering from that. And that's why our GBC committee, Srila Prabhupada's position, is active in restoring balance to people's understanding of the guru-disciple culture. Okay, so tonight we looked at prophecies that Srila Prabhupada fulfilled, Lord Chaitanya's historical stage setting for Srila Prabhupada's advent. We looked at how Prabhupada went from obscurity to Swamiji, to Prabhupada, to Founder-Acharya, and we look at how Srila Prabhupada is the life and soul of all of his followers. That is the sample lesson of the seminar. I hope it provoked you into wanting more. The seminar is a 10-lesson journey from, let's go back, because many came in late. Let's see, yeah. It's a 10-lesson journey from Sambandha, where we deepen our awareness of what it means that Prabhupada is our Founder-Acharya, to Abhideya, where we deepen our commitment to his mission. It's all about the mission, the roots, the ISKCON branch, the great unmet challenge, the Varnashram challenge, how we find our own mission within the mission. And then once we do that, we're qualified to talk about deepening our love for Prabhupada. To love is to cooperate. Interesting lesson where we dispel impersonal and sentimental misconceptions about Prabhupada. And then finally we look at how to access your individual, foundational relationship with our Founder-Acharya. Okay, I'm going to sit down now, and it's 8:40, but if you have to leave, if you're tired, like me, you can graciously bow out. But if you have some questions and comments, I'll be happy to, maybe we'll go to 9. And if there's no questions and comments, then we'll leave it to you to figure out if you want me to come back and do the whole thing, as Radhanath Maharaj encouraged me to. I just gave it away. Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, one question I have.
Yes.
That you said in that only he could lead them. So in that, that nobody in future will be able to rise to that level.
Yeah, okay, so did everybody understand the question? Does only he could lead them mean that no one ever else will rise? No. Krishna can do, he can send more people from his personal staff if he wants, but if they're authentic, if they're all that you say, that maybe somebody could come like that, you know what they'll do? They'll be very happy to cooperate and push on the Krishna Consciousness movement. As long as the Founder-Acharya of his own movement can continue to express himself through his own institution, there's no need to start a new institution. It's only because Srila Bhaktisiddhanta could no longer express himself through his own institution that Prabhupada was forced to start a new branch. He didn't even come here intending to do that. Look, I'm your worker. You can be in charge of it. Better late than never. This is what Guru Maharaj wants us to do. They couldn't do it because of the gravity of the offense of disobeying his instruction to work cooperatively with the governing body. That's the central challenge we still face in ISKCON. How we have to have very authentic guru-disciple relationships. But guess what? Those guru-disciple relationships, those God families are accountable to a wider sangha of devotees overseen by a governing body. They're not independent. This is a challenge, especially for people of Indian ancestry, because you folks know the traditional guru-disciple relationship. And there's no GBC involved, right? But guess what? Starting with Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the Thakur saw this is what's going to take. This is not the work of one guru and his disciples. It's going to require a global, collective, cooperative effort amongst many gurus and disciples overseen, supervised by a governing body, so that if people start going off the rails, they can be disciplined, and it's happened. If it weren't for the fact that ISKCON had a GBC in the 1980s, there wouldn't be an ISKCON today. When there were so many, because there was imitation of Prabhupada's position, and there was reaction. Anyway, so no, yeah, people can bring on the avatars, bring on the Mahabhagavats, bring on the Nitya Siddhas. We need them. But if they're real, they'll cooperate with Prabhupada's mission. We have many pure devotees in the movement today. But you don't replace the Founder-Acharya. You simply cooperate in his mission. You know how the Shris put it, the Ramanujis? They say that Ramanuja is their Udharak, if you know what goes on in Sri Ranga. Udharak, U-D-D-H-A-R-A-K-A, Udharaka. He's so powerful, he's so pure, that he can deliver everybody. But he only stays on earth he stayed on earth 120 years. And he wrote the Mahagranthas. They say he writes the Mahagranthas. And so the gurus who come after the Udharak, they call them the Upakarak. They are benefactor gurus. How do they benefit the world? They bring their disciples to read the books of the Udharak. They worship his Murti, and they execute his mission. And that's how they're intact for now going on 1,000 years. They get it. We got to get it more. We've got diversity coming out of our ears. We need more unity. And guess who supplies that? Core identity, core relationship for all generations of his followers. It's the Founder-Acharya. We need to understand that deeper. And then there'll be less politics, less fighting over men and money and whatever, Less fanaticism, my guru is better than your guru and all this stuff, It's silly. We got to outgrow that. And the Founder-Acharya is the key to outgrowing that. Bring on, huh? There's no other key. Key drive. Okay, any Maharajis? Let's give the Maharajis a chance. Any questions? Yes, our committee's Founder-Acharya, the position of Srila Prabhupada's book has been approved and published by the GBC. Therefore, this seminar, as Maharaj knows, it's more in demand than ever because people want an experience of what they're reading. Yeah, the book published by our committee, mainly Brahmendra Swarup Prabhu, we put him through his paces. We put him through 6 years of drafts, is basically the theological foundation of what we're presenting here. So, but it takes more than resolutions. And we don't need more legislation in ISKCON about Prabhupada's position. For 20 years, we've been having, resolutions about Prabhupada. We need more education, not more legislation. We need more seminars, we need more experiences of people understanding their relationship with Prabhupada more. All right. I guess we'll, as Jamuna used to say, sweet Gauranga dreams. I say sweet Prabhupada dreams. That's our cue. Thanks very much. Sweet dreams. Sweet Radha Gopinath dreams. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Bhakti Vrinda ki jai.